Hello and welcome to another installment of Instant Reaction, the series where I forget what the intro format is. Tonight, me and my co-host Todd
Hi.
will be giving our reaction to the recently released teaser trailer for Dragon Ball Daima. And because the standards are already pretty low, do you want to just dive into tonight's episode?
Oh yeah, we have no standards here.
So instant reaction is our off the cuff opinions. So if you want more high quality content, or what I think is more high quality content, you can watch the other stuff we've got. It's everywhere, but this is going to be incredibly, I guess, chill tonight.
Yeah, 100%. We've got some notes. A lot of this is going to be improv though. We just want to talk about Daima because this is some of the first new Dragon Ball news that we've had in quite a while.
Yeah, the release of the teaser trailer just happened what, 8 days ago is what I'm looking at on YouTube right now, so it's still pretty fresh, hot off the presses here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as Daima goes, there were a lot of rumors leading up to this. So this got announced at the New York Comic Con in 2023. We're recording this shortly after that. And it looks like, I mean, people were calling it Dragon Ball Magic. There were like rumors about, a new series. A lot of it was accurate though, because a lot of it had described it was going to be like a GT-esque format where Goku was going to get reverted back into a child. And once we dive into the trailer, we're going to see that at least that much was very true.
And for me, anytime I hear that Goku's going to be turned into a child again, it makes me it makes me shake my head. I would not believe that rumor on its face, but I mean, turns out they were right.
I, you know, I have some serious reservations about this, but it's not out yet. The visuals look great, so I'm gonna reserve judgment, but we'll talk about it a little bit more here. It sounds like it's gonna be released by Toei Animation, and Akira Toriyama is heavily involved in the story. So that's a plus for this show, at least.
Yeah, the main studio and the main man are working on this, so they're putting effort into it, right? At the very least. And I mean, Toriyama he's taking time away from, well, writing the manga to work on this project. So that yay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. I mean, he has his, if you want to call him, his prodigy or his understudy in Toyotaro doing most of the manga work, at least the drawings for the manga. But yeah, I mean, I'm super glad that Toriyama's involved in this. Hopefully it doesn't turn out like GT.
Yeah, I mean, we're not off to a great start with Goku being turned into a kid again, but we want to just touch base on some of the background and some of the, I guess, the facts that we know about this show already. So, like Todd said, it was announced at the New York Comic Con, and right now it's set to release in fall of 2024, according to the official Dragon Ball website. So we know it's coming out next year.
Yes. In addition to that, as Dayton said, this this looks like it's actually supposed to be a celebration for the 40-year anniversary of Dragon Ball, in honor of the manga when it was released all the way back in 1984. And I mean, that's super cool. Like, I'm glad that that's something that it's wild that we're still getting new Dragon Ball content 40 years after its original release.
And
So
it's still so popular too. That's the other thing, is that it's maintained popularity for all those years. I mean, it's not uncommon to get some throwback to something that happened in the 80s, but it's maintained popularity that entire time, and that's what's impressive.
yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about there was one big gap in there, or a few big gaps, I suppose. But speaking of that, the last Dragon Ball animation that we did have was the superhero movie, and that actually was just earlier this year in March of 2023. Before that, we did have a gap of about 4 years with the Broly movie, the Super Broly movie in January of 2019. And then so those are just two movies as far as animation goes. The last series that we had was Dragon Ball Super, which a lot of the fan base is waiting to come back, and that aired from 2015 to 2018. So It started airing more than 8 years ago and stopped about 5 to 6 years ago.
Yeah, that's a big gap in Dragon Ball release content, especially since in my eyes, Dragon Ball Super ended with a lot of questions. We don't know where the story's going from here, and there doesn't really seem to be, I don't know, like there wasn't enough resolution for me, at least personally. So I've been waiting for something to kind of, I guess, continue happening. And I mean, it, it feels weird waiting that long for a Dragon Ball series animation at this point. But um, what I can say though is that the two movies that happened since that series, very big fan of. I thought the Broly movie was excellent, and Dragon Ball Super Superhero, I had the lowest expectations on the planet for. I'm not gonna lie, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. It was a fun little flick.
I really those honestly, those might be 2 of my favorite Dragon Ball movies. The Broly one's probably my favorite one. That one is excellent. But yeah, I mean, it's funny to me as I'm thinking on this because Dragon Ball Super ran for 3 years, and the Dragon Ball fan base has a lot of complaints about Super, myself included. And despite that, though, the fan base has been like pining for Dragon Ball Super, the anime, to come back. And we still have not gotten that announcement. Instead, we've gotten Daima. And I think we'll talk a little bit about the fan reception here
Yeah,
shortly. But
there's a lot to say about it. So, but
yeah,
just to kind of, we've got just a couple little bit or a couple more, I guess, background facts here to go over. We have a quote from Akira Toriyama that gives us I guess, a summary of what Daima actually is, and I believe this is translated. So it's these are his exact words. So I think the English may not be the best, but that's how you know it's real.
yeah, absolutely. Did you want me to go ahead and read through that then?
Yeah, go ahead and get us started.
Okay. So the first quote that we have here is from Akira Toriyama himself, uh, saying that daima is a made up term, which is Japanese, which has these Japanese characters, which we can't show you because this is an audio podcast. But in English would be something like evil. Due to a conspiracy, Goku and his friends are turned small. In order to fix things, they'll head off to a new world. It's a grand adventure with intense action in an unknown and mysterious world. Since Goku has to make up for his petite size, he uses his Nyoibo or power pole to fight something not to fight or something that's not been seen in a long time. And I came up with the story and settings as well as a lot of the designs. I'm actually putting a lot more time in this than usual. Things will unfold that close in on the mysteries of the Dragon Ball world. Hope you all enjoy these different from usual battles that are cute and powerful. Akira Toriyama.
Yeah, and my my first thought reading through this is that this feels like maybe a little passion project, maybe something that's not um that doesn't necessarily fall in line with the rest of Dragon Ball, but maybe it was a bunch of ideas that Toriyama wanted to just animate and put on the screen, and this is kind of his reason or excuse to do something like that.
Sometimes that's just how he does things, right? Even in the Boo arc, a lot of that was him just doing what he felt like was fun for him. Um, with some a little bit of people kind of pushing him in one direction or the other, but this feels like he has some story he wants to tell or some project he wants to work on, and he's gonna do it. It feels like it's a side project, right? It's completely a side story. I'm still curious, like, people, it seems like there are mixed feelings about whether this is canon or not. I mean, Toriyama's working on it, so some people are arguing that that makes it canon. But regardless, I'm curious if this fits into the normal Dragon Ball timeline, and if it does, where exactly?
Yeah, I mean, it's Well, we're most of the information we're given as far as what's actually happening comes from this little it's a 3-minute long trailer. And the first minute of it is just kind of a recap of where we've been. So we actually only get about 2 minutes of actual new content with no real audio, by the way. It's just tiny little snippets of scenes and characters all kind of laid out in front of us. So we have very little information other than maybe the main players who are going to be in I guess Daima.
Yeah, I think it basically just has music playing to the animations for the most part. Like it's a teaser trailer. It doesn't give us a ton, but we're definitely going to dive into that a little bit more. I think one of the only other little details here is that Toei Animation is the studio that's working on this. It's not outsourced to some other studio. So, I mean, it's about as official as Dragon Ball content can get with Toei
Yeah,
and
as far
Toriyama
as we can
behind
tell,
it.
it's the big guns, right? They're dumping everything into this as far as we know.
Yeah, 100%. But I think that wraps up our information bit as about Daima. So I think we're going to move on now to, do we want to do the actually dissecting the trailer, or do we want to talk about our opinions about it?
Let's dissect the trailer a little bit and then we
Yeah.
can give all of our opinions just because it's possible that people listening to this they they might have someone who hasn't listened to it or seen it before, or they may have forgotten exactly what was in the trailer. So I think it'd be nice to do a little refresher to kind of get people back up to speed.
Yeah, let's do that. I want to see. I mean, I want to go through it again and just pick out anything that we spot too. So, um,
I will say though, so like I mentioned, the first like minute of the trailer is kind of a recap of the major Dragon Ball releases. I think it's incredibly well done. It's a nice little like walk down nostalgia road.
Oh yeah, for being for what it is of just being a recap, it's super cool. It shows like the Dragon Balls with this little countdown, and then it shows like the very first manga cover with some of the other mangas floating behind it, and the year right on front of 1984, where all of this started. And again, reminder that we're celebrating 40 years of Dragon Ball here, and it kind of skips forward to see like when Dragon Ball the animation, the original anime was released, and then Dragon Ball Z, and then GT goes through some of the movies, all the way up through 2023, where we had the last movie was Dragon Ball Super Superhero, and that's when it cuts into the actual Daima trailer.
Yeah, and so I know it's a teaser trailer. It's supposed to get you hyped, but I worry, man, that they're kind of overhyping this. The marketing guy is kind of overachieving on his job because after watching all that, doesn't your like blood pump a little bit? You're like, oh yeah, baby, what are we getting?
It's well done, man. Like their marketing team or advertising team, they're doing some serious work here. Uh we kind of break into the actual trailer itself, and one of the first visuals is it's unique. It looks like some sort of, not sure if it's like an island or a planet, with these tall buildings and structures with what looks like these vines wrapped around it. Doesn't look familiar, at least to me. I think Dayton, you said it didn't look familiar to you either, right?
I was trying to place it. I couldn't figure it out. It does give me very like I guess artistic vibes similar to that of Beerus's homeworld.
I was
It
gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It must have to do with like the tentacles kind of remind me of vines and kind of the trees or whatever on
Right.
Beerus's planet. With what looks like a building or something like that nestled in the center of it. So it does give me some of those vibes, but it does look like it is a different planet though.
Yeah, it does cut over to this visual of what looks like, it's almost like these magic runes and circles that are kind of glowing and floating in the air, and two figures who are floating here. They are they're watching closely, specifically what looks like the events of Majin Buu, of like Babidi and Dabura, and our heroes kind of fighting against Majin Buu.
I
And
just noticed something too because I'm kind of watching along as we're explaining this.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so when we zoom in on these two characters, one of them you don't get a front shot, but you do get the rear shots. You see the back of one of the characters' heads who's kind of taller and more slender. He's got a very similar hairstyle and pointed ear look that you would see from the Supreme Kai.
It's very similar. So I'll be honest, I when I first saw it, because you can't quite see like you can't get a good read on his skin color and everything. He also has a similar design to Tapion from the Dragon Ball Z 13th movie. I think the Dragon Fist movie. But his clothes look if you look at his clothes, you can see, like, the poofy sleeves that look much more akin to, Supreme Kai, like Shin. He's also got, like, a white cloak or cape on the back. I'm not sure who these guys are, but there's a shorter guy who is also dressed in, like, somewhat similar garb who has, like, the cloak. He has, like, a staff or rod. He's, like, short and round with pointy ears. I don't know who these guys are. It it definitely leaves a bit of mystery, but I'm curious if these are the guys who wish for Goku and the others to become younger or smaller.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's kind of presented to me, it feels like these are the villains, right? The way they're obscuring their faces, the way they're I mean, even when they pan around and you get the face shot of the shorter guy, he has a frowny face and not a smiley face. So that means
Yeah.
he's a bad guy.
Very deductive of you,
I'm a
Dayton.
genius.
That's right.
But I mean, I'm assuming these are the new villains. I'm not sure, but we're not really given much here, so it's all speculation at this point.
Yeah, and we get just a few other brief shots of kind of like this almost what looks like this flaming swirling vortex. All of this looks like it's on this kind of like red hued red skied planet. There's a little spaceship, like a little pod kind of flying around these vine structures, and there's, kind of like a shot of what I think is that same kind of like round villain creature. He's got kind of like a gray face with almost no nose and, this kind of like very round everything, round eyes, round mouth. Um, and then we get a shot of the Dragon Balls.
Yeah, and I mean, it's exciting to see them, right? And it begins with kind of a quick scene of Kame's lookout and the Dragon Balls shooting off in their different directions, like you would see after a wish, right? And then we see them like I don't know, seeing them all sitting on the ground together, just with that aura of golden energy. It's it's scratching that nostalgic itch very well at this point.
Oh yeah. I mean they summon, of course, the dragon, Shenron. It's a it's a great visual. It looks like there might be some CGI mixed in here. But Shenron looks good. Lots of magic surrounding him. And Shenron asks whomever summoned him to make their wish. And then it kind of cuts from there to what is presumably the aftermath of the wish as Goku and Vegeta specifically shrink down into these childlike forms.
Yep. Oh man, I'll wait until after the trailer, but yes, they not only are they now in childlike forms, we also kind of start getting shots of all the other Z fighters and characters too. So you can see that I'm assuming it's Hercule who or Mr. Satan who's in kid form now. It's Bulma, it's Android 18 and they're well, can their kid become more of a kid? I don't know how that works, but yeah, it's everyone's a kid now.
Yeah, I mean, Marin admittedly looks younger, but that might just be comparing like Marin to the kind of kid chibi forms of the others. I do love that Mr. Satan is clearly a child and has like his kind of iconic fro hairdo, but has no facial hair. He's got
That threw
baby
me off
face.
so bad the first time I saw him. I was like, "Who's that guy?" Oh my god.
Oh, there's another character in here too that is pretty funny because I mean, we see a bunch. We get quick shots of like Krillin, Yamcha, Puar, Oolong, but we also
You get the Ox
see,
King.
yeah, the Ox King with his helmet is, like, covering his entire head. He has no facial hair, but look at the shot right after that. I missed this the first
Oh.
time. It's Master Roshi with bald head, no facial hair, still has his glasses, has the turtle shell on his back, and has his, walking stick in hand, just completely baby faced.
I was say he actually looks almost exactly like Krillin, to be honest, with
He
like
does,
no
yeah.
facial hair or anything like that. Similar head shape. Like you put some dots on his head, and that's Krillin.
Yeah, you'd have to wipe that nose off his face, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and we get shots of Goten and Trunks who, rather than being kids, are like babies now.
Yeah, they're babies, so, well, I guess this show's not gonna have any important Goten and Trunks footage, so if anybody wanted that, you're not getting it in Daima.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, and I mean we start getting some quick flashes through I guess some of the events that are going to happen. You get everyone sitting at chairs and their feet don't touch the ground, and we get a CGI view of the lookout as we zoom in on it, and we're flying through characters at this point. We even come across a Supreme Kai who somehow has also been turned into a child.
Supreme Kai and Kibito, yeah, we also get a quick look at Korin, who Korin doesn't seem to have changed, but Korin is also ancient and a cat, so I don't even know if we'd be able to tell if Korin changed at all.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some shots too of just Goku with the power pole just spinning it around, and I mean, I'm gonna talk about the animation quality in a second because it looks superb. I
It's
think
great.
anyway. I'm not a big fan of the CGI stuff, but they're blending it in fairly well, and the stuff that they are actually animating looks phenomenal.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we'll touch on that after a little bit more, but yeah, we see Goku with the power pole. I mean, we heard Toriyama's little blurb that I'm not sure that I love Toriyama's well, we'll talk about that more after the dissection, but we kind of move from the power pole to I can you tell Dayton this looks like a Saiyan pod to me or like a Frieza Force pod that is
I've got
heading
the
to
frame
Earth.
by frame. There's no defining features that they animated that says 100%, but it looks like one from everything we can see. It's similar size. Also, when the Saiyan pods are moving through space, they kind of make that same trail slash kind of meteor look. So it's definitely a round object flying through space towards what I can only assume is Earth. So I can say with I'll say 70% certainty that that's a Saiyan pod.
Yeah, yeah, Saiyan pod. It could be like a Frieza Force pod. We know the Ginyu Force used those same pods too, but it looks like the same make. So who knows who could be in that? We get a brief flash. I want to touch on this too because there's a brief flash of like one of the Super Dragon Balls, and then there's a brief flash of it looks like a close up of somebody's eye, but it looks like I'm guessing Namekian. It is. They look like they have green skin, no eyebrows. Their eye is kind of flashing red. I do want to talk about that a little bit more after, but we get another shot of like some like a dragon flying through the landscape. We get quick shots of like a spaceship and Bobbity and Boo. Um,
Yeah, and so there's going to be some sort of focus on Bobbity and Boo because they've referenced this a few times now where we see in all the shots at the beginning, they had, the different images in front of our two new characters. A lot of that was from the Boo arc. And then at the end, they kind of tease it again where we get shots of Bobbity and we also get what I assume is a zoom up of the eyeball of one of those two new characters, but I still don't recognize who or what it is. I still assume it's a Supreme Kai level being.
that's a good call too because it looks like I mean, as far as Dragon Ball animation goes, it looks feminine. Like
It
the
does look feminine, but at the same time, Whis could fool me.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It looks feminine, has kind of like eyeliner or eye color, long eyelashes. Um, it also the character has kind of purplish skin, which I mean is not unlike purplish skin, and you could kind of see like the edge of a white eyebrow. So all of that coloration scheme is not unlike our Supreme Kai, like Shin.
And if this is
So
the same character we saw at the beginning, then they also have a mohawk, just like our Supreme Kai too. So
exactly, yeah, that's a good call too. It The trailer kind of continues from there, showing us full size adult Goku and Vegeta fighting. Again, brief nod to the animation here. Looks fantastic.
it's so smooth. I mean, just just this is what I want. I just want some high quality kick ass, which is more or less how they end it. We get to see the Vegeta Goku kind of exchanging a couple blows. It seems like they leave that on a little bit of a key struggle and then flip over to a shot of Goku battling something, but it's mostly just to zoom in on his kind of confident child face.
Yeah, I do want to point out that it looks like whatever he's fighting, it's some sort of robot creature. It looks like it's probably on a planet other than Earth, with like the sky with like these red hues, and the rocks in the background are more like orange and yellow. I like what little bits we see of the robot design. It's very Toriyama, with like the fingers that have like lines on them to indicate joints and stuff. But the last shot that we get after that epic shot of Goku's kid face is just the brand new Dragon Ball Daima logo, and I have to say I like it. It looks good.
Yeah. So overall, what was your first gut reaction when you saw this the first time?
All right, let's get the negative out of the way, because when I so first off, let's talk about the rumors briefly, because there had been things that had been leaked where people were saying that a new web series is coming out called Dragon Ball Daima. It's going to be a short web series where Goku gets turned into a child like GT. And with that in mind, even after seeing the trailer, I if anybody has listened to our content, I'm not fond of GT, I'll be honest. I'm worried because this has a lot of the formula that GT had.
Too a lot like of the literal formula.
Almost to a T, right? Like this is
Oh,
very
we're
similar.
gonna go to different planets, and Goku's a kid again, and oh god,
Yeah, and so I was worried, but it does have Akira Toriyama kind of helming this, so that diminishes my worry a little bit. Uh, with that in mind, I the visuals look great. I think the animation is fantastic, especially the shot of Goku and Vegeta fighting at the tail end. So while I have my reservations, I'm not going to pass judgment on it until I get the chance to actually watch it. But what about you, Dayton? What did you think?
when so the very first time this showed up in my feed, I clicked on it and watched it, and I closed it, and I just kind of pushed it out of my mind for a little bit because I wasn't ready to deal with it yet. And so I had to open it up and kind of rewatch it again later with kind of a a more open mindset, because the second I saw Goku turned into a kid again, I don't want to do that again. Like, we've already gone down that path, and I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. But at the same time, this was one of those ones where I think my initial reaction was mostly negative. I don't think I was really excited about this. I wasn't sure who the target audience was for it or what my expectations should be. But given the quality of work they've done lately with the movies, and especially Dragon Ball Super Superhero, they found a way to make content good, even if it's not necessarily the content that I want. And we can see that. I mean, like you said, the animations are beautiful. I'm always a big hater on CGI, but they're using it very sparingly in this. And so the moments that they're doing it aren't too distracting because the thing that's happening in front of you, at least the important part of the shot, has been animated in every bit of the trailer that we've seen, and it's looked fantastic. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but during one of the scenes when Goku's kind of spinning around the power pole, the detail of the way he would reach his hand up and grab it to continue the spin and then move his hands over each other, it looked so freaking good. I mean, it's hard to hate on something when there's that much attention to detail. So, I think for me, if I keep my expectations reasonable, I think I can enjoy this series.
Yeah, that's a great little detail about the animation too. I for me, I mean, I'm gonna keep coming back to this scene at the end. It's like 3 seconds long, maybe, but it's Goku and Vegeta as adults fighting. The animation has a similar.
Well,
I'll,
did you notice that that was, at least I thought I noticed it, that that was supposed to be, like a modern recreation of Goku and Vegeta's, beam struggle when during the Saiyan saga? Because they're in the same positions and you have the same underhand look of Goku's hands as he's firing the beam up.
at the very least, it's an homage
An
to that,
homage, yeah,
right?
that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, 100%. But the animation itself, the way that I would describe it is it kind of has a combination of if you took the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie and you combined it with kind of Toriyama's some of his latest, like most modern manga art. Like it looks to be fair or to help explain that a little bit more, the anime both like I guess Dragon Ball Z, and Super, and I suppose GT, they vary a little bit from Toriyama's original art style. This looks like it takes that art style and tries to animate it using the animation from the Broly movie, and I love it. It looks
It
fantastic.
looks really good. Actually, I guess my only critique would be it almost looks too good. It's almost jarring when you're looking at some of these. Even if you frame by frame it, the amount of work that's put into every single one of those images is kind of nuts.
Yeah, I man, I can't get over it. Like even looking at the key blasts, they're done in a very different style. I
Yes.
like it, man. Like you kind of see this like from what looks like Vegeta's Gallic gun. I think it's kind of purpley red, but you see like this deep reddish purple color in the center outlined by white, and you see like these almost like halos encircling the beam, and you see kind of lightning coming off of it. It looks super cool.
I mean, I guess my thoughts are as long as this is a pet project and as long as it's just, a little taste of just a fun Dragon Ball, I guess is the way I'll describe it, is just give me something that's fun and quick and just it's I guess an homage to the last 40 years of Dragon Ball. Just something that's a passion project. I think I'm perfectly fine with it. I just don't want another GT. I don't want 60 episodes of Kid Goku. I want something that's just quick and fun and just, I sit and I watch and I have a good time.
Yeah, I agree. So let me say this because again, the GT is in the back of my head, like nagging at
I
me.
know, I know. It's in the same boat for me. I haven't well, I watched some of GT actually back at your house.
25, 30 years ago.
So I'm
Um,
semi familiar with it. Not the order of it. I missed about 30 of the middle episodes, but I don't think those mattered.
Not really. But GT's nagging at me in the back of my head because it makes me want to think that because this has a similar formula to GT, that it's gonna be bad. And it's not a fair it's not a fair thought, right? Like this is not GT. This is 20 plus years after GT. And in addition to that, Toriyama's on this project. And just looking at this trailer, the animation is leaps and bounds above and beyond what GT's animation was. GT's animation, in my opinion, was not good.
So I'm assuming that this trailer is probably also the cream of the crop as far as animation. How do you think this compares to the cream of the crop in, say, Dragon Ball Super?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'll say this, because it is so short, it's hard to compare it,
Mhm.
but it is it, I would almost put it on par with some of the best stuff in Super. It absolutely looks better than the majority of the animation in Super.
I think I completely agree with you. I think it's that good. And Super probably has some of the best animation I've seen in, not that I watch a lot of anime, but it has some of the best animation I've seen in anime. So that's a pretty high bar to try and reach. And this little pet project is doing exactly that. So I mean, there are some things for me to be excited about.
Yeah, and I want to add to what you said there because with saying that Super has some of the best animation that you've seen in anime, I think you're saying in little snippets, right? Like little
Yeah, 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 yeah.
scenes,
Not the
not
whole thing. Absolutely not the whole thing. No,
yeah.
yeah, let's make sure that's clear. I
Yeah.
didn't. Oh God.
Because
Oh, some of that. Oh, some of those
Super has
filler
some real
episodes were
bad.
rough.
Yeah.
But back to this. The other thing that just occurred to me is going back to the effort put into Goku spinning the power pole. I'm wondering if this is Toriyama's way to rein power levels in, so that way we can go back to more choreographed fighting, more martial arts and less beams.
I I have mixed feelings about that. And the reason I have mixed feelings is like once again because of GT because that is what GT did. And while I appreciate that idea, like I love Dayton and I have watched and reviewed all of Dragon Ball. We love the martial arts and the choreography. It's fantastic. I like that a lot. If they can accomplish that and execute it well, I'll be perfectly content with them using that using turning our characters into younger characters as an excuse to get more interesting fights. But I don't want them to do it the way that GT did because it was not successful.
And for me, that's interesting fights is basically what I want to get out of this. That is my bar, that is my expectations. Or wherever I got to sign in that dotted line. That is my if I get some good fights out of this, some fun fights, this will have been a success for me. I don't know what your category for success is, but that's mine.
That's I mean, let's be I enjoy Dragon Ball's story, but it's not always the deepest. I like some of the character arcs. For the most part, I come to watch like the fights and to see some of the emotions that, some of the characters in those fights elicit. So yeah, I mean, if this gives me a few like well animated, interesting fights, I'll be super happy. It looks like, admittedly, even with this kind of like GT formula, it looks like this is trying to deliver an interesting story. At the very least, we get these two interesting characters, or well, I say interesting. We get these two mysterious characters because we know next to nothing about them. And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit too. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with like your opinions about the trailer or anything before we
No,
move
I
into
think
like
that sums up my opinions, but you wanna dive into the new characters?
I want to talk like some speculation about some of the things that are happening in the trailer as well as like some of the things that they're doing. We've already touched on like them getting younger and that maybe making the fights more engaging from a martial arts perspective. But one of the things that I think could be happening here because you brought this up first, Dayton, in bringing up the character looking like Shin
Oh, yeah,
or
I was already speculating. I can't not speculate. I have to have an opinion.
so with that in mind, we also see it like that close up eye of what looks like a one of the Kais, basically. So I'm gonna throw a wild speculation out there, but one of the things that we see a lot is them watching specifically Bobbity and Boo and that whole engagement. And a lot of the story surrounding Boo is that a lot of the Kais fought against Boo. Even one of the Kais let himself get absorbed by Boo so that Boo would be a less evil character. which he was marginally successful with when we had, Fat Boo, versus like our evil Boo. So I'm wondering if that ship could be the Kai. Uh, it could be that this Kai is coming to the planet for some reason, something connected to Boo. Um, I don't have much more fleshed out than that, but I feel like there's some sort of tie-in to this Kai character and watching the fight with Boo, as well as probably Shin, our Supreme Kai.
Do we know the fate of Bibbidi?
Um, you're talking about Babidi's father, Bibbidi?
Yeah. Do we have an absolute fate for him, or
We
because I think, gosh, I don't remember. Because remember, everybody, this is off the cuff. There's not much research done into this.
It's true. Um, at the very least, Bobbity told us Bibbidi's fate, but Bobbity could be wrong. I believe it was either that Bibbidi was killed by the Kais, maybe even killed by Boo, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, or that Bibbidi was sealed away. I can't remember. It was one of those two things without actually looking it up.
Okay. Actually, according to the wiki, he's not even shown in the manga, which is interesting. So it does look like there are some scenes in the anime where they showed his face, but I was wondering, what if that was Bibbidi this whole time? What if he was off doing something or doing some background stuff? I don't know.
You mean what if the new character they showed was
Yeah,
Bibbidi? What do you
the
mean?
round face guy.
Could be. Looks quite a bit different from Bobbity, but it would also explain why he was watching the events unfold with Bobbity and Boo.
Yeah, and the maybe he slapped his mark on a Supreme Kai or something like that during the big battle, and that's his henchman. I don't know. I'm just spitballing over here because I don't have a lot to go off of.
I mean, we're throwing out wild speculation. Like I didn't have a lot of meat to my ideas and speculation. You've got more meat, but maybe more wild than your speculation.
I mean, if I'm gonna get wild, I'm gonna get wild.
Yeah. The only thing that would lead me to believe that that's not the case is just the character design for that character looks quite a bit different from Bobbity. But I mean, given the circumstances, it could be perfectly valid. Again, we don't know what Bobbity or Bibbity really looks like.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just guessing here because other than that, I mean, we do get a shot of the round one's face. It doesn't look like anything familiar to me. Um, I mean, I was really trying with that one. There could be a subtle reference to something somewhere I'm not picking up on, but nothing jumped out at me.
The one thing that I was thinking of, I honestly thought for a moment the way that they were watching those screens and like viewing the events unfolding in the Boo arc, it felt a lot like the Time Patrol, like
I forgot about
from
them. Yeah, it absolutely could be. And that's I mean, the Time Patrol would fit into this project perfectly.
it would because it's like pseudo canon. Like we see the Time Patrol in a lot of the video games and like the Xenoverse games. And I think in Dragon Ball, oh god, Dragon Ball Heroes or Dragon Ball, I always forget the name of it now. It gets even harder because we have Dragon Ball Super Superhero, and then we have like I think it's called Dragon Ball Super Heroes.
It's not confusing at all. I can't believe
No,
you get that mixed up.
yeah,
So my
easy.
okay, so my question is do you think in this miniseries, what's the over under of us seeing characters from Toriyama's other IP?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. You're talking about like Dr. Slump
Yeah,
or
like that kind of stuff.
I I'd say probably not, but it's a possibility. Like they're traveling to other worlds. Like it seems like it's meant to be more fun is not quite the right word. More silly, more funny, more goofy. Like it doesn't feel like the seriousness that you get from Dragon Ball Z.
Because I think in original Dragon Ball, we get a slump reference, right? And then in Super, we get a slump reference.
You're not wrong. So
So, I mean, he likes throwing that in there, and this is definitely the kind of project where I think it would be excusable, even if it's just a light reference.
that's a good point. Yeah, you make a good point too, and especially because I mean, I even stated it doesn't have the tone that Z has. Z is probably his most serious work, and this doesn't have that tone at all. This has more the tone of Dragon Ball, maybe.
Yeah, I think the neat thing about this too is that we know with Dragon Ball Super Superhero that they've at least heard our desire to have other characters outside of Goku and Vegeta be relevant. I'm hoping they carry that forward into this. I'm hoping we get some more side character action. I'm not hoping for it, but he did just hit a button that could even out everyone's power level. Just actually do it.
That would be interesting, right? Like, it's a good point. I was kind of poking fun at the fact that we're not going to get Goten and Trunks, which I know a lot of the
Well,
fan
okay,
base
let's not
want,
get ridiculous here, all right?
but if arguably, if for whatever reason this wish diminishes, say, Goku and Vegeta's power, let's say it is something again akin to GT, where Goku's their bodies can't handle their higher level transformations or something. Like, for instance, this trailer, outside of showing the Boo content, I don't think it showed Goku, especially not as a child, did not show Goku or Vegeta transform at all, at least not as children.
Yeah, that is actually pretty wild because I mean, even with the scene where Vegeta and Goku are fighting each other, they're just in their regular forms. They are not Super Saiyan. And even when they're firing their blasts, they're just in their regular forms. So yeah, there's no Super Saiyan in this, which is wild.
I'm wondering if they're gonna like even go a step further than GT did, because GT Goku really couldn't handle his Super Saiyan 3 transformation as a child. But I wonder if they'll just say no transformations, your bodies can't handle it or something.
They're illegal. Get out of here.
Yeah, which would be weird, right? Because Goten and Trunks would use Super Saiyan at the ages of 6 and 7, so, I don't know, maybe there's something more with the wish that we don't understand yet, but or maybe they do transform, we just don't get to see it in the trailer, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean it's I don't know, the way Toriyama alluded to, like, different planets and stuff like that in here too, but we're also getting shots of, like, the Boo do you think time travel is gonna be a part of this?
You know, I brought up the Time Patrol, like, it could
It
be.
feels like there's gonna be some time travel in this,
I
because
wouldn't be
well, there
surprised.
has to be because unless they're, like, doing flashbacks to Boo and, Bobbity, there would have to be time travel.
Well, let's point out though too that we don't really know right now where this falls in the timeline. We know for sure. We can say it's definitely after the Boo arc, because we know Goten and Trunks are there. We know Marin's there. I don't think I don't think we saw Bra or Pan at all.
Okay, so I wouldn't be shocked if this did take place right after the Boo arc. So
It
these could be shots of them talking to the various characters or watching what's going on. So it could be time travel, it could not be time travel.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I think like I wouldn't be surprised if they showed time travel, but I want to know where when this takes place. I There's a part of me that's like, we've in what we've seen, it could easily take place right after the Boo arc, but I'd kind of be surprised if they jumped backwards in time with that. I won't be surprised if this takes place after Super.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing I wanted to bring up is the one character where they zoom in on their face at the end. I don't think it is, but do you think there's a possibility that there could be angels involved in any of this?
Ooh, see, Uh, funny enough, the Dragon Ball superheroes goes into stuff like that, more like the demon world and the angels and stuff. And while Dragon Ball Superheroes not great content, it's like a advertising for a game. I like that stuff a lot, and I wish they'd bring that stuff more into, like, the main Dragon Ball content. I hope this has something to do with, like, the angels and the devils. I love that stuff.
I mean, it's wild, right? And right now, because it's so new and we still don't fully understand it, it's a lot of fun.
So, to your point, actually, Dabura is I forget his exact title, but it's like the
He's the
king of
Demon
the
King or something,
demons.
right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, this very well they're watching the stuff with Boo. They're watching you see Dabura in the screens that these guys are watching. So this very much could be attached to the demon world or the angels or something like that. It definitely has to do with the Kais, who are themselves gods of some level. So it feels like bare minimum, it feels like there is a Kai who is going to be the bad guy or bad woman in this case, possibly. But it, I'm curious if she has a something against Shin, against the Supreme Kai, because Shin and Kibito are specifically seen in the trailer, and they are specifically turned to children.
Yeah, and I don't know. At this point, I'm getting so far off in the speculation that I feel like I don't really have a leg to stand on anymore. Where it's just I don't know, it could be this. Like it's we're given so little. We're given all these shots. It's a good teaser trailer. I'll give them that because we're given a lot of little pieces. They got me thinking about it. I haven't put it together yet. I don't think.
No, I agree. I'm super curious. I'll un there are a couple little pieces, I'm getting, like, in the weeds about this, but there are a couple of other little details that I wanted to just touch on briefly because the more that I'm thinking on it, the one thing and this might just be Toriyama character design, but the one thing that this, like, close up of this small, round, potential bad guy looks a little bit like to me
Is the
is
Zennies?
yes, you read my mind. Looks a little bit like Zeno. Um, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are connected to Zeno or anything like that, but it does have that same character design.
It's like that. It's a very specific head where it's very wide and round. It's almost like a football, right? Or like,
Yeah.
Hey Arnold is the perfect comparison. I think it's that football head kind of look.
Yeah. Also, and you can't see it very well, but and this is going to be like a totally different thing. So the outfit that that same character is wearing, man, it looks like a lot like the outfit that Jiren and his squad wears. It has like a black V on it with the red underneath that. I doubt that this character is from Jiren's squad, but phew, boy, like it even has the white gloves. It looks a lot like that uniform.
Yeah, it's with the white boots and white gloves. Yeah, yeah, I
It
can definitely see. It's I mean, it's interesting though because when you look at them, they have this kind of royalty element to their outfits, right? The shorter guy with the round head has like a scepter in his hand, and the taller guy in our first shot of them, or girl, I'm not sure. She has like a cloak on, is what it looks like, with like this big fancy belt. So it seems, I mean, it's hard to get good enough shots to really see what they're wearing, but to me, I get like these royalty vibes at the same time, though.
Yeah, and that's fair. So, actually, another thing, like I'm kind of frame by framing this just to see it right now, but the another thing about this character, this small round potential villain, I'm almost certain I've seen a character very similar to this in Dragon Ball Superheroes, either in the anime or the manga, and they were connected, I'm pretty sure, to the demon world. This character too, if you look closely at the silhouette as it circles around him, he doesn't only have pointed ears, he has horns that curl outward on
Oh,
top of
now
his
that's
head.
an interesting detail right there. That's a really interesting detail.
You can also see on his eyes, if you of course, frame by frame it, he has these, like, black triangles underneath his eyes. It's very much like a he has a very bad guy aesthetic to him, and very much in my mind has kind of like a demon or maybe even like a wizard vibe.
A wizard vibe, huh? Hmm. Can you think of any wizards that might be involved in this? Oh shoot. All
Getting
right.
closer and closer to your speculation.
I think we're beating the speculation horse quite a bit now.
I know, I got stuck in the weeds for sure.
it's fun though. It's fun. I think we should dive into kind of the last thing I'd like to talk about is just the general community reaction to this trailer. What was everyone's kind of response to this? And I think everyone's response was kind of similar to at least my initial response, where you kind of ask, why? Why are you making this out of all the Dragon Ball content you could choose to make?
The the internet did not respond kindly to Dragon Ball Daima.
And that doesn't mean that the internet is not always necessarily representative of everybody or the people, but it is representative of the internet, which is usually kind of on a negative skew. And this didn't change that. Even in areas where you would normally see excitement, it wasn't really there, at least not from what I found.
Yeah, I mean, the most vocal people were either like I think you even had a poll, Dayton, but the most vocal people were meh at best in my mind. And I think more often than not, we're like, why are we getting this show that is a GT remake and why are we not getting Super continued?
Yeah, the poll I had sent over to Todd when I came across it, it only had two options: Subarashi, which I had to ask Todd what that meant, and meh. And meh won by a landslide with 77% of those 55,000 participants, which is, I mean, that's a big chunk of the community kind of passing on this one, it seems like.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Subarashi is basically like excited, but I mean, the poll only gives two options, but for most of those people to select meh, people aren't excited about this. I don't know. I think I had the same initial impression that you did too, Dayton, and the same initial impression that the internet did. The more that I've sat with it, though, the more that I kind of take in the fact that this is a side project and maybe even a passion project for Toriyama, and again, a celebration of 40 years of Dragon Ball. This is not supposed to replace the the main anime or replace Dragon Ball Super. This is just something extra. I think the problem is that the fan base has been waiting almost 6 years for the Dragon Ball Super
That's
anime to continue.
we discussed that just before we started recording where if we had other Dragon Ball content, I don't think people would care as much, but when you wait 6 years for an announcement and you get uh basically GT the 40-year celebration, I can see why people would not be super stoked about it.
Yeah, and Dayton was the one who brought that up. Like it's a really good point that if we had Super going right now, people would be like, "Daima, I'll watch it. Like it's fine." Um, but the fan base keeps asking for the Super anime to come back, and then the Toei Animation comes back with, "Here's Dragon Ball Daima."
Oh, I mean, it's rough, but part of me doesn't mind them taking their time with animating Super because I don't want to run into the same situation we just had where they were dragging out episodes and everything was so long and chopped up, and because they were waiting for episodes of the manga to complete before they could animate the entire series, right?
Absolutely. So I think actually, Masako X from Team Four Star on YouTube, he made a point that the manga does have two complete arcs after the Tournament of Power arc, that the anime could animate and give that to the audience, but honestly, it wouldn't take the anime long to chew through those two arcs, and then what? And then we're it either stops again or it has to pad itself out like Dragon Ball Z did and give us a bunch of filler until the manga gets further ahead.
Yeah, and I'm guessing, if you're an animation studio and you're like, you're going to animate all this content, there probably is, a cost to onboarding and offboarding all the talent and getting everything together to get a project started. And so if every couple years you source all these people and get all these animators and get the project going, do it, and then stop it again, it probably increases the cost of that project or by quite a bit when you're constantly starting and stopping like that. So just I guess to kind of support that argument, if I just had to speculate a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. It's as much as I want more Dragon Ball anime, I get it. Like,
Also, the quality of the content probably suffers a little bit too when your animators have to kind of get back into the style of animating Dragon Ball over and over again. Your voice acting group has to kind of get back on the horse over and over again. So your quality of animation is going to be all over the place. Your quality of voice act. I can see why they would want to wait until there's enough content for them to produce that makes it worth their time and effort to actually make that content.
so to add to your point, I something else that you have said even in the past, Dayton, was,
Oh god, don't quote me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
sometimes you do.
Eh.
But the movies, especially from like the Dragon Ball Super era onward, have largely been very good. I mean, with some few exceptions here. Uh if if Toei Animation decided that they just wanted to release, these high quality snippets of Dragon Ball in movie format, I wouldn't be upset with that. And to be fair, just seeing the trailer for Daima, while it's not a movie, it feels like what you described, Dayton. It feels like something where it is a short format. They're taking their time with it, and it's high quality Dragon Ball content. At the very least, high quality animation. We don't know if the other,
Well,
story and whatever else is
I
good.
think some of the rumors were saying that it was going to be about 12 episodes long and possibly a web series.
I The web series thing was something that I brought up because I had heard it when the Dragon Ball Magic stuff was a rumor. I don't know if that's the case or not anymore. But yeah, there's been a lot of speculation.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing I will say though is that if Toei Animation is working on this Dragon Ball project, it probably confirms that they're not working on a different Dragon Ball project right now, especially because the quality of this looks very high.
I honestly, I don't know if the fan base is thinking about it this way, but I wouldn't be shocked if some of the fan base, even subconsciously, is upset about Daima because it likely means that we're not going to get any more Dragon Ball Super anime until after Daima, which is still 1 year away itself. So it's kind of confirmation, like you're saying, Dayton. It's kind of confirmation that we're probably not going to get Dragon Ball Super anime for another year and a half at best.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you're looking at probably near 2 years. If they have plans to release new content, like that continues off of Super. So I mean, that's one of the downsides to I guess this release is I would stake money on it that this is probably the studio or the group of talent that they would use if they were to continue the Dragon Ball Super series at this point. So we're not getting any new continual content next year because that's the year of Daima.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I don't know. I'm torn. Like I get why they wouldn't start the super anime again right now. I had to kind of be told the reason why.
And just because it's not like they're making Daima instead of Super, right?
Right.
It's not like we're like, oh, we were going to continue working on the Super story arc, but now we're going to make Daima. I don't think that's how this works. I think it's just we wanted to make some Dragon Ball content. We don't feel that the manga's at a point where we want to start animating it, so we're going to do this other project. I think that's probably what happened.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. I think that hopefully the fan base starts to look at it that way because I'm glad that we're getting something Dragon Ball. I'm glad that it looks like it's gonna be high quality. If if it happens to have some GT elements and stuff, and if it happens that we're not getting the super anime continued, at least we're getting something and it looks good.
It'll be fun. I'm like I said, I'm setting my expectations more or less the same as they were for the superhero movie. If I get some good fights, if it's fun, I'll have a good time. And I mean, it's some new Dragon Ball content, right? It's something to talk about and I guess chew on. It'll fill my dragon. It'll fill my tum tum.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think I feel honestly, I feel pretty good about it right now. My initial reaction was not
Yeah, my
good at
initial
all.
if I would have typed out my initial reaction, I would have been number one on the Reddit page.
Yeah, I was about ready to flip my table when I saw that they were releasing this and it had all the GT vibes and we weren't getting the super anime, but the more that I've stopped and processed it and thought about, okay, it makes sense. Like I
Well,
get what they're
especially
doing.
the way they hype up this trailer, and you're like, Dragon Ball Daima, oh, this is the new Dragon Ball. And it's just like, look at all this awesome Dragon Ball. You're like, hell yeah. And they're like, chibis. Oh no. Why did you
Um,
give me this? You guys should have hyped this differently.
it's a weird way to go about it, but I mean, 40-year anniversary. I guess they didn't want to miss the chance to like market it that way. I don't know.
I mean,
It
it's fun. At this point, I can look back and laugh, but the way it set up my initial expectations, I thought we were getting going here.
I was pumped, man. I feel the same way. Like it leads into it as if it's supposed to be like the next big continuation of the anime, and
What they
it's
need to do is they need to give me in 2025, they need to give me the next movie in the Dragon Ball Super series. So that way I can keep they need to keep working on me not having to actually watch the animated series anymore. I just need the movies. Let's complete that out.
yeah, yeah. I if they at the very least, if they in even in 2024 or 2025, if they announce another movie, I think that that would really hold the fan base over a little bit more than just Daima.
I mean, a Tournament of Power movie would be so baller, especially with what they've done with everything else. Oh my gosh.
That would be interesting. It's funny though because the other super movies came out before the super anime, or at the very least, I should say Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods and Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F. They are the super story, but they came out before Super. It'd be interesting to see them really condense down the Tournament of Power. It'd be hard, but
I could see them making it a two-parter. But I would be fine with, Tournament of Power Part 1, Part 2, just because you also have the micro tournament and stuff like that beforehand. And I mean, a gloriously just animated uh Goku Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken fight. Just oh god, give it to me. Give it to me.
oh, you're talking about the not the Tournament of Power even, you're talking about the
The
Tournament 6.
pre-tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, Tournament 6 and or Universe 6 and Universe 7 tournament rather.
That's a hell of
Uh,
a highlight. That's a good highlight for your part 1 movie as you're getting into it.
that'd be cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've watched the shit out of that, but
I mean, there's
um,
just so much they could do. They've done such a good job with the movies. I think at this point they've earned my fate or faith. If they come out with a Dragon Ball movie, I'll watch it. It'll probably be good.
the movies have earned my faith. Toei Animation has made some questionable choices, in my opinion, over the years, but
I mean, we've seen their old movies. I'm glad they also decided that those weren't great.
I like a few of them, but they're more of them are bad than good. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll agree on that.
Yeah, but we're getting off on a tangent here. We've I mean, we've talked about this probably way more than we even needed to. I got really sucked into dissecting the little details and speculating. Do you have any other thoughts about Daima before we wrap up, Dayton?
No, I just know that we've got more content for next year, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Maybe between finishing up Kai and the dreaded GT, it'll take us
No,
into Daima.
I don't know if I'm ready. GT followed by Daima, that might be a bit much.
Maybe Daima will be fantastic and it'll wipe our palates from GT.
I hope we'll have a buffer in there somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we've beaten the Daima teaser trailer to death.
I hope
So
so. If you haven't had enough content at this point, I don't know what's wrong with you. Seek help.
that's right. So that's going to be it for this episode of Instant Transmission's Instant Reaction. This has been your host, Todd.
And Dayton.
Be sure to join us next time for another Instant Reaction whenever Toei decides to give us something new to talk about. As of this recording, Dragon Ball Daima will be released in the fall of 2024, and maybe it'll be good. Fingers crossed, but either way, be sure to join us for some in-depth discussions upon its debut. And to all our fellow Dragon Ball fans, stay safe out there, and remember to keep rocking the dragon.
This is unscripted, so if you're here, thanks. Was that genuine? Thanks.
Oh, hey,
Oh,
you've got the button.
that's right. I hit the stop button. Oh God! See, this is why you should be in charge.